welcome once again to the Arts Foundation's 2026 Operating Support Grant for Organizations. The Arts Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit local arts agency. We serve Tucson, Pima County, and Southern Arizona. Our mission is to advance artistic expression, civic participation, and equitable economic growth of our diverse community by supporting, promoting, and advocating for arts and culture in our region. One of the ways in which we do that is by supporting through funding, through grant making, the work that you all do through your own organizations. So we are here to talk today about the 2026 Operating Support Grant for Organizations. We are accepting proposals from nonprofit or 501c3 arts organizations that are serving and operating within the city of Tucson, Pima County, Southern Arizona, including tribal nations that reside between the southern edges of the Gila River all the way down to the U.S.-Mexico international border. An important note is that this program accepts fiscally sponsored arts organizations who wish to apply, who meet all other requirements. The program is open for applications. The deadline is Thursday, January 6th. The award amount you may request is up to $15,000. So the funding purpose for this program is to support organizations who would like to request support for operating expenses that are prioritizing the hiring of artists and or the delivery of arts programming undertaken during the funding period. The funding period starts July 1st, 2026, and will end in May 31st, 2027. The application, once again, is due Thursday, January 6th at 11:59 p.m. No late applications will be accepted. This program is funded through the City of Tucson, Pima County's Community and Workforce Development, the Mellon Foundation, and the Arizona Commission on the Arts. So full program details for this program are on our website. And so I will actually be navigating us to our website. So if you go to our website, you can find our landing page for the grant program, and it'll give you the same information I just reviewed. It'll give you the scope of work of this program, what we intend to do, the type of impact we hope to have, grant details, which we just reviewed. And then you will have, there's 3 buttons currently on the page. The webinar registration will be replaced by the recording of this webinar. And then you have the option to download and review guidelines in English or guidelines in Spanish. We offer bilingual support for all of our grant programming. And then there's a button that says apply, which will take you to our submittable platform where you may submit your application or start drafting your application and saving it. If you click on this guidelines link, it takes you to a PDF of the full program details for this program. So on the main page, you'll see the title information and the most salient information for this program, which we just reviewed. There's a table of contents that allows you to go through and reference information, including the full list of questions for the application for this program. And then on page 3, you'll see the guidelines at a glance, which will walk you through, again, the kind of, the sort of summary of what the program will fund. The funding period, the award amount. There is a final report that is due for this program, which will be due June 30th, 2027, a month after the end of the funding period. A cost share matching of funding is not required for this program. It funds general operating costs. It tells you who the funders are so that you may acknowledge them if you become a grantee. It lists the application period, today's grant webinar, deadline, and then something really important, it tells you the review criteria for this program. So how will panelists evaluate the program? We'll get into it in a minute. It tells you in a nutshell what those application questions are. It tells you what materials you will have to prepare in order to successfully complete your application. It lists the application flow, and then it tells you the resources. So if you would like to schedule at any, you may call these two phone numbers, or you may send an email if you have any questions. You might also schedule a one-on-one 20-minute consultation to receive support by clicking on this link. It'll take you to a Calendly page, and you can schedule a meeting with me, and we'll jump on a Zoom meeting, and I can answer any questions that you might have. Here's contact information. If you need any support in terms of the actual navigating the Submittable platform, there is a phone number for Submittable, and there is a link to send an email. Submittable is a third-party service provider, and so our ability on staff to help you will be limited. You will find our mission and vision, our non-discrimination statement on page 5, the overview of the grant, and timeline, which is so important. So again, application period, the deadline, which is January 6th, the review period, which will be January 7th through April 21st, notification and award materials, which will go out between April 22nd and April 29th, the funding period, and then the final report deadline. The award amount, which is up to $15,000. The fact that there is, again, no cash match required. And then a list of who is eligible for this program. So we consider eligibility at the time of application. So applicants, very important. You must be a nonprofit, 501c3 arts organization that is in good standing with the IRS and or with a federally recognized tribal nation. The organization must be operating and serving within the Arts Foundation funding region. And you may apply with a fiscal sponsor. The fiscal sponsor must be in good standing with the IRS, if that is the case. And if you are being fiscally sponsored by an organization, you must provide an MOU or agreement letter between you and your federal sponsor, your fiscal sponsor, at the time of application. Applicants may reside and provide services in counties and regions south of the Gila River, including Pima County, Santa Cruz, Cochise counties, and the southern portions of Pinal, Yuma, Greenlee, Graham, Maricopa County, and our tribal nations of Action Indian Community, Sovereign Nation of the Cocopas, Quechan Tribe of the Fort Yuma Indian Reservation, Gila River Indian Community, Pascua Yaqui Tribe, Tohono O'odham Nation, and San Carlos Apache Nation. If you have any questions about whether your organization resides within our geographic area of service, please reach out. The primary mission of the organization has to be explicitly to produce, present, teach, serve, or preserve through arts and culture. You must have completed at least 1 year of artistic or cultural production or programming in Southern Arizona at the time of application. Your budget must be dedicated over 51% to arts and culture programming. All previous grantees who wish to apply, once again, must be current and in compliance with all reporting to the Arts Foundation. So if you received a grant from us and you're not sure if you completed that final report, please reach out as soon as possible so that we may help you to try and become compliant so you can apply for future funding. Applicants will be required to provide documentation of good standing via an IRS determination as a 501c3, and you must provide your most recent 990 information. Grantees will be required to create a profile for the Arts and Culture Directory within 1 month of receiving their award letter. If you are applying, my recommendation is that you complete your Arts and Culture Directory profile, if you don't already have one, as soon as possible. You only have to do it once, and it is a requirement. Grantees will be required to submit a current W-9 IRS form. Grantees will be required to create a free Bill.com account to receive payment. If you received a grant from the Arts Foundation and you've already set up your Bill.com account, you do not need to create a new one. If you do not have one, please don't create one. Our colleagues at Momentum Tax will invite all grantees to create a free Bill.com account. Grantees will be required to complete a risk assessment by submitting a self-certification to ensure the organization is not disbarred, suspended, or has any other exclusions or disqualifications. Grantees will be required to disclose in writing any potential conflicts of interest that may be present when conducting funded activities. Grantees will be required, once again, to submit a final report within 30 days of the end of the funding period. And of course, grantees will be required to comply with all national policies, which are included in full detail in Appendix B. So the following entities are not eligible to apply. And if you have any questions about whether your organization is eligible or not, again, please be sure to add your question, or we can answer that question at the end of this presentation. For-profit entities are not eligible. Religious institutions or religious group-sponsored organizations whose primary purpose is the religious socialization of individuals or whose arts programming exists as parts of religious sermons or services are not eligible. Political organizations are not eligible. Private and nonprofit schools, except for those whose sole purpose is arts education, are not eligible. Any division or department of municipal, county, state, or federal government, including elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, colleges, universities, and school districts are not eligible. A waiver may be issued if the arts organization is deemed as the sole provider of arts programming in the rural community or tribal nation. If it meets all other eligibility requirements, that requires a separate conversation. Reach out if you think this is your case. So the eligible expenses for this grant program, right, as we said, this is kind of a general operating support. You may request funding to cover salaries and personal expenses, to pay creative workers like artists, tradition bearers, designers, educators, curators, program administrators, service providers, etc., production staff, your administrators, teachers, contractors, and consultants. You may request funding to provide artistic or production expenses, to purchase supplies, materials, equipment, pay for venue, royalties, and licensing. You may cover administrative expenses. You may also pay for office space and supplies, insurance, professional services like accounting or payroll, fees for banking, online services and platform, training and education, marketing and promotion, essentially the general day-to-day operating costs that your organization might have. You will be required to to retain your financial records for a period of 4 years. And if you have any questions around what type of financial record management that will entail, please let us know. There's a section here on how you will apply. Essentially, we're going to go through that today, but the steps are here for you. You may review them at leisure again. The review process. So this is really important. All of our our grant applications undergo a technical review process. So that is undertaken by staff. We read and review all of your materials submitted by each applicant to ensure that the materials are complete and in compliance. If your budget isn't loaded properly, it allows us to circle back and say, hey, can you resend your budget? It's not loading or we can't see it. We will also check for eligibility, make sure that you did indeed submit those final reports, that your organization operates within our service region, etc. All eligible and complete applications are then forwarded to community panelists who assess, score, and comment on each application based on the published criteria of artistic excellence and artistic merit. Once that panel evaluation is complete, the panel recommendations are submitted to the Arts Foundation Board of Directors for formal approval and authorization. So your application will be assessed based on the following evaluation criteria. Number one, the potential to have an impact on the arts workforce. Number two, the potential to serve, reach, hire, and/or support individuals whose opportunities to experience the arts are limited by factors such as geography, ethnicity, economic status, and/or disability. Criteria number three, the ability to carry out the proposal based on such factors as the appropriateness of the budget, the clarity of the project activities and project personnel involved. And number four, the significance to the arts and culture mission and core work of the organization as you define it. The questions we will ask in the application directly reference each of these four criteria. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. So again, if you require assistance, we're offering this webinar. We provide bilingual consultations, grants coaching, which you may also schedule through the same Calendly link right here. And there's a frequently asked questions section in Appendix C at the end of these guidelines. You can also call in an application interview if your organization has that need. If you have questions, you may email or call. There is submittable technical support. And if you would like to request this agency publication in an alternative format, you may contact us at grants@arts512zon.org or give us a call. Okay, so the application questions. There's something that we want to make sure that we are clear about, and it is that only certain sections of your application will be viewed by panelists. Only section 4, the narrative, and section 5, the finances, of your submission materials will be shared with panelists so that they may assess and review and score using the evaluation criteria. The Arts Foundation collects basic descriptive information about all applicants and their projects and proposals so that we may comply with our own funder reporting requirements, and to develop statistical information about our organizations and projects as we are funding them. So Section 1, eligibility. Section 2, organization profile. Section 3, organization services and activity type. And Section 6, disclosure and signature, are kept confidential. Only staff has access to that information. So this is where we start the application questions. So the eligibility section will walk you through who is eligible to receive funding. And I'll walk you through some of those questions in the application itself in just a minute. I do want to touch on, here's your organization profile. Again, we'll review these in the application itself. The organization service and activity type. We want to get to know you. Here are the narrative questions. So this section will be viewed by panelists. And here are the 4 questions we're asking you. So the first question, tell us how you plan to use the funds and how those activities and expenses will have an impact on your arts workforce during the funding period, will be assessed based on, this is the impact criteria we mentioned. Another way in which panelists will assess impact is for you to tell us how your programs have the potential to serve, reach, hire, and or support individuals whose opportunities to experience the arts are limited by factors such as geography, ethnicity, economic status, and or disability. Panelists will assess capacity when you tell us your ability to carry out the proposal based on such factors as the appropriateness of the budget, clarity of the project activities, and project personnel involved. And finally, we ask you to tell us about your arts and culture mission and the core work of your organization. This will allow panelists to determine alignment. We ask that you number or identify each of these 4 questions because, again, it will allow panelists will assess these one-to-one. So the clearer and easier you make it for a panelist to determine that, the easier it'll be for them. And then we also ask you to provide a funding request synopsis where we ask you to briefly summarize your proposed arts project. So for example, to support the ABC project, which will XYZ. So what is it that you're requesting funding for and what will it do? And then you are asked to provide some work samples. And then we have a section on finances, where we will ask you about your income and expenses for fiscal year 23, 24, and 25, the request award amount that you wish to identify. You may request 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. A grant budget request, your most current organizational budget, and then that IRS affirmation letter of nonprofit 501c3 certification. The other thing that we will ask you to identify is your fiscal year start and end dates. Some of you operate on a calendar year. The start of your fiscal year will be January 1st, and the end of your fiscal year will be December 31st. The Arts Foundation operates on, our fiscal year starts July 1st and ends June 30th. And so that will help panelists determine, assess the the budgetary requests and the budget information you provide. So the disclosure and signature section, once again, is not viewed by panelists. And then that will take us to unallowable expenses. Okay, so overlapping costs are definitely not allowable. If work you are requesting funding for is already being supported or covered by any other source, we cannot also pay for the same expenses that are already being paid for by a different source. If you have any questions about that, please reach out. We are unable to pay for artist relief programs, alcoholic beverages, food, commercial or for-profit enterprises or activities, including concessions, food, clothing, artwork, or other items for resale. This includes online or virtual sales or shops, construction, purchase, or renovation of facilities, general fundraising. So for example, a gala, requesting funding for a gala is not an eligible expense. General miscellaneous or contingency costs, land purchase costs, lobbying of any type, mortgage interest, fines and penalties, bad debt costs or deficit reduction, rental costs for a home office workspace that is owned by individuals or entities affiliated with the applicant organization, awards to individuals or organizations to honor or recognize achievement, social activities such as receptions or parties or galas, subawards to replace lost revenue, vehicle purchases, voter registration drives, and related activities, costs supported by any other funding. This includes government funding received either directly from a government agency or indirectly from a pass-through organization, such as the State Arts Agency, Regional Arts Organization, or a grant made to another entity. Expenditures related to compensation to foreign nationals when those expenditures are not in compliance with regulations issued by the U.S. Treasury Department Office of Foreign Asset Control. For more information, you can click on that link below. The list is not comprehensive. If you have any questions, please reach out. And then we have our funder terms and conditions. We will leave these to you to review. They're fairly standard. And then we have our frequently asked questions. And so I think for this presentation, we would like to prioritize answering your immediate questions. And then if you have additional questions, you may peruse that frequently asked questions. So after reviewing the guidelines, I go to apply. So if I'm going to right click and open the application, the submittable page. We have 3 active programs right now. This is the operating support grant for organizations. So I'm going to click submit application. It'll take you to a page where, well, if you don't have a submittable account, it'll ask you to sign up. I'm logged in, and so it didn't ask me to create one. If you've applied in the past, you can use that. Please note that whatever account is used to apply for this program, that email address attached to the account will be the primary email account where you will receive notifications related to this program. So please make sure that your submittable account is always kept up to date. So we will ask, submittable will ask for your address, your city, town, state or province, pardon me, your zip code, the country, and your phone number. You're going to save that information and click continue. And then if you scroll down, then the application will start to populate. So here they'll ask, we ask you in what city your organization is based. I'm gonna click Tucson. it will ask your organization category. So the first one of the eligibility questions is, does the applicant organization have a 501c3? If I click yes, then the application will populate. If I click no, then you're going to be asked if your organization has a fiscal sponsor. If your organization does not have a fiscal sponsor, then you are not eligible. So again, if you're not a 501c3 yourself and you don't have a fiscal sponsor, you are not eligible to apply for this program. If you get this notice at any point in your application and you don't know why, please send me an email or give me a call, and we can verify your eligibility together. The application is built to automatically let you know if you qualify for this program. If your organization has a 501c3, it won't ask you if you have a fiscal sponsor. Then the next question is, if your organization provides a majority of its services or programming within Southern Arizona, the answer is no, then you are not eligible. But if you do, then you are eligible. It means you operate within our service region. Your primary mission has to be to explicitly produce, present, teach, serve, or promote through arts and culture. So if I click yes, then it opens up question 5. It'll ask you about your arts budget. If you're 501c3 and you have an arts program, but your budget is not dedicated 51% or more to arts and culture, you do not qualify. We are unable to fund a specific arts and culture program for an organization that is not specifically dedicated to arts and culture. There is another program we offer, the STAR grant, that for which you may qualify for a specific program, arts and culture program. So again, if you are not dedicated to the arts, you are not eligible for this program. You must have at least 1 year of history providing arts and culture programming in Southern Arizona. If that's not the case, you do not qualify. Past recipients. If you are a past recipient, then you must have completed a final report. If you haven't, please reach out. We'll try to help you become current. But if you wait too long, there might not be enough time for us to, for you to comply with the overdue, past due final reports, and also submit this application. So please check on that as soon as possible. Then the application will then walk you through your organizational profile. Your organization legal name. This is really important. We will use it to match your information to IRS and other requirements. This will also be the name that will be used in your grantee contract if your organization is recommended to receive funding. If you're doing business as a different entity, you may enter it here in question number 2. Then we ask for your mailing address, your U.S. county. If you are specifically and formally affiliated with a specific tribal nation, then you may select yes, and then indicate to which tribal nation you are affiliated with. Again, this has to be a formal affiliation. Please let us know if you have any questions about that. We ask you to provide your website URL, social media handle if you have one, to upload your organization's logo. We will use that in our reporting and to identify your application internally. Your tax ID number, the primary contact full legal name, the position, and the email for that contact person and their phone number. And then this is important, the full legal name of the financial authorizer who will sign a grant letter of agreement. Number 10 and number 11 may be the same person. Please enter it twice if that is the case, or you may have a CEO entered in number 11 and the grant manager entered under number 10. We ask you to please report your Arizona State Legislative District. You may click this link, enter your address and look it up. It is required. We use that information for our reporting. We ask that you disclose your U.S. Federal Congressional District, your City of Tucson ward, if you reside within City of Tucson boundaries. If you don't, you still qualify. You simply have to click outside of Tucson city boundaries. Please double check on that. You can use, I will check on this. I'll check on this link for you guys. Pima County District. If you reside within Pima County, you can enter your address right here. Section 3 is your organizational service and activity type. So when your organization began offering arts programming history, percentage of arts-based programming, again, if it is, you can determine that based on your budget. Your applicant operating budget, the most current one you have. Your primary artistic discipline, community and mission alignment. If you work with any specific cultural community, you may select applicant organization, mission, and service are not primarily dedicated to a specific cultural community. If you can't identify any one specific one here, or you may select multiple ones if that is the case for your organization. The sectors that you engage or serve alongside arts and culture. If you provide multilingual service, we ask you to please estimate that number of community members that are that benefit. Again, sections 1, 2, and 3 are not viewed by panelists. So this is the narrative. Section 4 narrative is information provided with panelists. So here's your applicant organization name, your as you wish it to be known or as is most recognized, the funding request synopsis, your mission statement, the year the organization was founded or incorporated or formed. Here are the narrative questions. You may enter your narrative here. We suggest that you draft it in Word or in a different program so that you can keep a copy of that and check spelling and all that stuff, and then just copy and paste in question number 5. Your work samples, we ask that you provide up to 3 minutes of recorded audio or video or up to 6 images so that panelists may get a sense of the work that best represents your organization's work. And then we ask that you describe those work samples. So if you could tell us, the date when the image was taken, if there's a credit line, if there is a title, if there was a specific program, give us those details to give context to those work samples. Section 5, once again, this section, the information is provided to our panelists. Your fiscal year start and end dates, your income, your expenses for fiscal year 23, your income and expenses for fiscal year 24 and 25, the requested award amount, your grant budget request. You can tell us how you will spend that funding, your most current organizational budget, and if you could please upload that IRS affirmation letter of nonprofit certification. And then section 6 is, once again, not viewed by our panelists, disclosures and signatures. You may save a draft, or you may submit your application when you are ready. And that concludes this marathon presentation.